Hello, this video shows the tests for the ISPRA pilots focused on earthquakes and landslides. This activity is done in the frame of the preceded project, the work package 3, pilot and assessment, and the task 3.3, trials and evaluation of services. Okay, we have identified as ISPRA some tests that are necessary for the correct implementation of the two scenarios. I just illustrate the tests that are been identified for the pilot earthquakes, but these are basically the same of both the pilots because the similar concept and the models. So these tests are valid for both the scenarios on earthquakes and landslides. Okay, this the first test identified in the in the list of the service requirement deliverable is called CAT-FAN1, and is described as following. Reside catalog surfaces shall be able to return a list of identifiers for corresponding features for a request expressed in a OGC query language. So I open the GeoPortal and I search for data metadata, and I click for example the IFI, and I find it. I can open also the information on metadata, so it's okay. I try another one. And search. It should work. Okay. Try with another one, and it works. I try with Korean, and it works. I try with rockfall susceptibility of Italian territory, and okay. For some metadata it works, for some other it doesn't work. So back to the document, we say OK/KO, because for some it's okay, from some other it doesn't work. Then the second test is focused on the CAT-FAN05, that is described as reside catalog service shall accept an area of interest, geographic zone definition, and a time period in input parameters. So I have to click on advanced and title, for example, EEE. I have to click on overlap the current map window and search, and it works. I try with another example, for example IFI, that are the landslides, but it doesn't work. I try with another one, Ithaca, that are the capable faults, and it works. And so I want to try just with another one to be sure. Okay, I think should be very fast, so again we can say OK for some dataset and kappa KO for some other. Then we have to the third test, that is called POR-Gen01. It's very simple for the description. It's implement POR trial services in WMS. And I close this window. And the content, we can select some WMS, for example, Ithaca, that is already on the table. We can call it again, or the landslide inventory. If I click on IFI, we see something. If we click on easy, we see something else. Okay, and if we click on the Corinne, just one of the 3 datasets, we see something else. It's quite takes a time, but is normal for WMS. So the main problem that we have identified is that we have a lot of problems, because first of all, there are 2 layers, that is 2 services that are still missing, that are OpenStreetMap and NAS3. OpenStreetMap can be linked through web as a service, and NAS3 also should be transformed in a server, but is available, can be downloaded on the GISCO website, and provide the distribution of the territory, the boundaries of the administrative boundaries of provinces in Europe. Second point that is very important, because some datasets are clearly displaying only a part of the original datasets, because the scenario must work in the entire Italian territory, and the datasets must cover all the territory if we have some information. But this is not the case. It's clear that, for example, if we open IFI is a national coverage, but we see landslides only in two regions, in Trentino and in Abruzzo. So it's a subset that is okay, probably to optimize the requirement from the technological point of view, but it's not okay from the user perspective. Then the other problem is that some datasets should be linked to the original source service directly, and not with the subset that we have provided to the partners only for testing. For example, for IFI is available at WMS, and is almost available also at WFS, and it should be very important to link this service directly into the geoportal. Then it's also important to use the standard legends that are available for some datasets that an European user knows very well with the specific colors, specific texture, and specific lines, dash, dot on dash, and so on. So it's very important to save the legends into a standard format, and the same also for the name of the datasets that are known with a specific name and cannot be changed or customized with different names. So we can say that WMS are working, so it's okay, but I have to say also KO, because there are some problems that I have just now mentioned. Then the next test is called POR-OPET01, and is focused only on one dataset, that is a seismic hazard model, and the test is described as Brisede POR trial services client shall allow users to view grid or geolocalized measuring points, And if we go here, I click just this one to be sure, and open. I zoom a bit for a better identification, and then I use the identifier button. We hope that works. No, it's still not working. Try again. Seems to working, but in practice doesn't work because I don't see any attribute. So probably we should use this service in a different way, not as a WMS, or I don't know. Let's see. But at present, this test is a negative. Then the next test is called PORFUN01, and support the following WMS operation: get capabilities, get map, and get feature info. I'll try to do it. I select some of the ISPRA WMS, and it works. We see get capabilities, we get map, it's very clear, and get feature info. We should just see about feature info. We have selected the defaults in this case, and try to get some information, but for some reason it doesn't work. So, but again, we say that basically this test is okay, with the exception of the get feature info function. Then the last no, this is not the last. Another similar test is dealing with to display the get legend graphic options, and this can be done from the opening the feature classes and selecting in detail we can see the texture of a polygonal layer, or the characteristic of the lines according to specific legend. So we think that it's okay, and the get legend functionality is the text is okay. Then we have to select, or we try to select to implement also not only WMS but WFS, that are the web feature services. Using the procedure, we try to register. There is some problem. I don't know why. Okay, we can. You say that there is a map server with the same. Okay. We try to be sure, but it seems to be in conflict with the URL of the services, of the WMS services. So, but in any case, it for some reason WFS cannot be implemented at this moment. In any way, for this kind of services, it's very important to. Okay, so of course, web map services are okay, but only for feature services. That's the problem. It's very important to use the correct features, number of features, that for a scenario dealing with earthquakes and landslides, it must be in the order of thousands of features at least. And so 100 features, that is standard for many geoportals, is probably not enough for our purposes for civil protection needs. Okay, the last function is that we listed is called RFAN02. It is geoprocessing, and the description is the identification of the area of interest shall be implemented as processing service in order to guarantee the definition of the sites of the area in a function of seismological parameters to the definition of topological operations. This is clearly a geoprocessing function, and it does not work. Now, probably it has been implemented, but has been developed, but not implemented in the geoportal. So we cannot test it at this moment, but for sure it will be tested with very good detail in the next test we'll do in the frame of this project. Okay. The second point is identification of the risk areas. For these functions, again, we cannot already do it because these functions are not in the geoportal, but we have listed, and I just very quickly describe them. The first one is focused on the possibility to represent attributes values related to geographical phenomena as diagrams. And the second one is to represent these attributes as external graphics, PowerFund 09. But then there is PowerOpe 16 and 17 that are dealing with the export, and in particular this one is export in a Esri shapefile format, and the other one is on export in GeoTIFF. And then, last but not least, because they are probably the core of the scenario, the two geoprocessing functionalities that focus on the identification of risk areas as per trial service in order to guarantee the visualization of areas susceptible to seismic rockfalls. And the second one is identification of vulnerable elements in the risk areas as processing services in order to guarantee the detection of changes and the representation of temporal trends in vulnerable elements. All these functionalities appear to be not in the geoportal, and will be tested later because are very relevant, are mandatory for our pilot. Okay, then before ending this session, I want to spend some time on the other the pilot that is dealing with the landslides. We have, as I said before, the same basic requirements, so the tests were similar, but we will have to test later other geoprocessing tools that have been listed in the deliverable dealing with the user requirements and service requirements. The extraction of features and the relative processes, the identification of infrastructures at risk, the identification of urban areas and people at risk, the landslides risk change detection, and probably the last one is very important, especially during emergency, that is the landslide network analysis. And so, of course, we will test later, but up to this moment it's okay. So we finish this test session, and we will see later to complete with the other tests.